Humanity had always looked up at the stars with wonder. From the earliest civilizations, people had wondered whether anyone else lived among the countless twinkling lights scattered across the night sky. Stories, myths, and legends were filled with creatures from other worlds. Some friendly, some terrifying, but nobody truly knew what was out there. Scientists, dreamers, and explorers all shared one common hope, that someday, humanity would meet intelligent life beyond Earth. And while most people imagined peaceful contact, few considered how real or dangerous such a meeting could be. For decades, the idea of aliens remained purely theoretical. Governments spent billions on telescopes, satellites, and deep space probes, scanning the universe for signs of life. Amateur astronomers also joined the search, scanning the skies late at night, fueled by curiosity and the thrill of discovery. Occasionally, strange signals were picked up, flashes of radio waves, brief patterns that did not seem natural. But none of them were clear enough to confirm the existence of intelligent extraterrestrials. Still, hope persisted. In a remote part of the solar system, far beyond the familiar planets, humanity had established an observation post. The station was small, almost fragile, yet it was equipped with some of the most advanced technology available. Giant telescopes and high-powered antennas scanned the cosmos continuously. Every day, scientists monitored data streams from deep space, searching for patterns that might suggest life. The staff at the station were not only scientists and engineers, they were dreamers. Every signal they detected, no matter how faint, made them imagine the possibilities. What an alien civilization might look like, how they might communicate, and what kind of challenges and adventures awaited humanity if first contact ever occurred. It was on one seemingly ordinary day that something extraordinary happened. A signal was detected unlike any other before. It was not just a random noise or a natural phenomenon. The pattern was organized, deliberate, and unmistakably intelligent. Scientists at the station quickly realized that they were not just looking at signs of life, they were looking at a message. As the signal was decoded, it became clear that it was a request. The aliens were asking for medical help. At first, disbelief spread through the station. How could an alien civilization, light years away, send a message specifically asking for help? What kind of beings were they? What danger or illness could they possibly have that required humans to respond? The questions were endless, but the urgency was clear. This was not a casual greeting or an exploratory probe. It was a plea for survival. News of the discovery spread quickly, first to space agencies, then to governments, and finally to the world. There was a mix of excitement, fear, and skepticism. Some people feared it was a trap, a clever deception by an unknown species. Others were thrilled by the chance to make history and show humanity's compassion and intelligence to the universe. Governments debated how to respond. Should they send a scientific team, a medical team, or even a military force? After hours of discussions, a consensus emerged. The first response had to be peaceful. If intelligent life truly existed and was in danger, the best chance for humanity was to help, not to threaten. The message made it clear that lives were at stake, and ignoring it was not an option. A specialized team of medics and scientists was assembled. These individuals were not soldiers or explorers. They were people trained to save lives. They had experience in extreme conditions, from disaster zones on Earth to medical emergencies in space. Their mission was simple in theory: travel to the alien coordinates, assess the situation, and provide medical assistance. In practice, however, it was far more complicated. No one knew what kind of environment awaited them, what diseases or injuries the aliens might have, or even if human biology would be compatible with alien physiology. Despite the risks, the team prepared with remarkable dedication. They studied alien biology simulations, practiced using experimental equipment, and trained in zero-gravity environments to simulate the conditions they might face. At the observation post, the team said their goodbyes to families and colleagues. There was pride, but also fear. Each member understood the stakes. They were not only representing Earth, they were stepping into history, into an event that could redefine humanity's place in the universe. As they boarded the transport craft bound for the distant coordinates, they were acutely aware that this mission could be the first time humans made direct contact with intelligent extraterrestrial life. As the craft left Earth's orbit, the team watched the familiar blue planet shrink into the distance. For many, it was a surreal moment. They were leaving behind everything familiar, the comfort of home, the safety of known surroundings, and heading into the unknown. The journey would take months, even years, depending on the speed and route of travel. During this time, the medics would rely on each other, their training, and their courage to prepare for what might be the most important mission of their lives. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the world followed the mission with rapt attention. News channels broadcast updates, scientists held conferences, and the public speculated endlessly about what awaited the human team. Some imagined benevolent aliens in need of care. Others feared the worst, picturing dangerous creatures or interstellar conflicts. Regardless of the fears, there was a shared sense of anticipation. Humanity was no longer just looking at the stars with wonder. It was about to step into a larger universe in a very real way. As the medics approached the coordinates, the alien ship became visible on long-range sensors. It was unlike anything anyone had seen before. Its shape was asymmetrical, almost organic, and it seemed fragile yet resilient. The ship emitted faint lights and patterns that suggested communication, but it also gave off signals of distress. The medics realized that their skills would be tested not only by biology but also by technology. They would need to understand the ship, the aliens' needs, and how to interact with a species whose world and experiences were completely foreign. The medics prepared for first contact. They reviewed protocols for interaction, focusing on empathy and observation. Communication was expected to be challenging, as the aliens had no shared language or gestures with humans. The team practiced patience and attention to detail, understanding that every action could have profound consequences. A wrong move could be seen as a threat, while careful gestures could foster trust. The tension was palpable, but so was the determination. Each medic knew that they were carrying the hopes of not just their own mission, but of all humanity. Asterisk at the same time. Back on Earth, the story inspired countless people. Children drew pictures of what the aliens might look like. Writers speculated about their culture, and scientists dreamed of studying their biology and technology. Philosophers debated the implications of helping another intelligent species, and historians noted that this could be humanity's most important chapter yet. People felt a mixture of pride and responsibility, understanding that the future of human-alien relations was beginning now. As the medics neared the alien vessel, humanity held its breath. Every decision mattered, every gesture was critical, and every second counted. The team understood that this was a mission of compassion, courage, and trust. They were not just doctors and scientists, they were ambassadors for Earth, tasked with proving that humanity could rise to the challenge of a universe full of unknowns. This moment marked the beginning of a story that would be remembered for generations. It was a story of hope, of the courage to face the unknown, and of the determination to extend a hand to those in need. Even across the vast emptiness of space. Asterisk as the human medics approached the alien coordinates, tension and anticipation ran high within their small spacecraft. For months, they had trained and prepared for this mission, but no simulation could replicate the reality of what awaited them. Every member of the team felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. Their instruments constantly scanned the space around them, detecting faint energy emissions from the alien vessel. The ship, visible now on long-range sensors, appeared unlike any object they had ever catalogued. It was enormous but delicate-looking, with a design that seemed almost alive. Its hull had irregular patterns that glowed intermittently, pulsing as if responding to some internal rhythm. The medics speculated whether the ship's structure was biological, technological, or a combination of both. Every new observation only heightened the sense of wonder and curiosity. Upon reaching closer proximity, the alien vessel seemed to respond to their presence. The lights on its hull intensified, forming patterns that the medics interpreted as signals of awareness. It was clear that the aliens knew they were arriving. The team prepared their communication devices, hoping to establish contact before attempting any direct approach. They activated universal translators, holographic projectors, and other experimental devices designed to bridge the gap between human and alien communication. The hope was to convey intentions clearly. They were medics, coming in peace, with the sole purpose of helping. Asterisk, the first challenge came immediately. The environment around the alien ship was unlike anything the medics had trained for. Tiny debris and unusual energy fluctuations surrounded the vessel, creating a field that made navigation tricky. The spacecraft's AI struggled to adjust, and the medics had to take manual control, guiding their ship carefully through the unpredictable currents. Every minor miscalculation could have been catastrophic. Yet, despite these challenges, the medics moved steadily forward, guided by their determination and training. That as they prepared for the first physical contact, the medics began scanning the vessel for life signs. The readings were both encouraging and perplexing. There were clear indicators of biological activity, but the life forms seemed to function on principles entirely different from anything found on Earth. Heartbeat-like pulses were detected, where they were irregular and complex, suggesting a physiology that was far more advanced or perhaps entirely alien. The medics quickly realized that understanding even the basics of the aliens' biology would be a monumental task. Any mistake could harm the patients they were trying to save. In this early stage of contact, observation became the most important tool. The medics deployed drones equipped with sensors and cameras, sending them toward the alien ship in controlled patterns. The drones transmitted back images and readings, revealing more details about the vessel's structure. The medics noted areas that appeared to be damaged or failing. Sections of the ship's hull flickered with instability, hinting at mechanical or biological malfunctions. These were likely the cause of the aliens' distress signal. It was the first concrete evidence that the mission could succeed. If they could provide aid, they could stabilize the situation. Once the medics were confident in their initial assessment, they prepared for the first face-to-face interaction with the aliens. The team reviewed all possible approaches and scenarios. They understood that every gesture, every sound, and every movement could be interpreted differently by beings whose culture and communication methods were entirely unknown. The medics chose a cautious approach. using slow, deliberate movements and minimizing any sudden or threatening actions. Their primary goal was to establish trust and ensure the aliens understood their peaceful intentions. When the first alien beings finally came into view, the medics were astonished. The creatures were unlike anything depicted in human imagination. Their bodies had an organic, flowing quality, with forms that shifted slightly as they moved, limbs extended in ways that seemed unusual to human eyes. Yet they moved with precision and purpose. The aliens' faces, if they could be called that, expressed distress in ways the medics instinctively understood. There was no aggression, only pain and vulnerability. This realization gave the medics a surge of determination. These were sentient beings in need of help, and they were entirely reliant on humanity's skill and courage to survive. The medics began the process of establishing a communication channel, using a combination of visual signals, light patterns, and audio frequencies. They attempted to convey simple messages, identification, intentions, and reassurance. It was a slow process. The aliens responded with patterns of their own, and the medics had to interpret each response carefully. Misreading a signal could result in panic or miscommunication. Despite the challenges, there were moments of breakthrough. Certain gestures and patterns seemed to be understood by both sides, creating small but significant signs of mutual recognition. While communication was underway, the medics also prepared their medical equipment. They had brought advanced diagnostic tools, portable scanners, and treatment devices specifically designed for alien physiology. Every instrument was calibrated carefully, and every procedure was reviewed multiple times. The team knew that mistakes could have disastrous consequences, both for the aliens and for humanity's reputation as a species capable of responsible first contact. The pressure was immense, yet the medics remained focused, methodical, and compassionate. Early attempts at medical intervention began with observation and non-invasive diagnostics. The medics carefully scanned the aliens for vital signs, noting patterns in their biological functions that were entirely unfamiliar. They discovered that the aliens' systems were delicate yet resilient, capable of rapid regeneration but also vulnerable to environmental instability. Each finding was recorded meticulously, both for immediate treatment purposes and for scientific study. The medics realized that understanding the aliens' biology was as important as addressing their immediate health needs. As the medics gained more confidence, they moved closer to the aliens' core habitat area within the vessel. This region appeared to be where the most severe damage or illness was concentrated. Here, the medics encountered unexpected obstacles. Parts of the ship's interior were hazardous, with unstable surfaces, fluctuating energy fields, and sections that seemed to react to the medics' presence. Despite the challenges, the team pressed on, guided by the knowledge that the aliens' survival depended on their success. Every step required careful calculation and teamwork. The medics also learned more about the aliens' culture and behavior. Though direct communication remained limited, patterns of movement, response to light and sound, and reactions to touch provided clues. The aliens displayed trust in the medics, allowing them to approach and conduct scans. Yet there was also clear fear and caution. The medics realized that building rapport was just as important as medical intervention. Small gestures of respect, careful handling, and calm presence helped ease tension and created an environment where treatment could begin. At the same time, the medics had to contend with the psychological strain of the mission. Being so far from Earth, in an alien vessel, with life and death stakes, placed enormous stress on every team member. They relied on each other for support, encouraging words, and careful monitoring of mental health. Each medic understood that maintaining calm and focus was essential, not just for their own well-being but for the success of the mission. The pressure was relentless, yet it also strengthened their resolve and cohesion as a team. In the early situation, small victories mattered. Successfully stabilizing an alien's condition, interpreting a signal correctly, or navigating a hazardous section of the vessel all reinforced the medic's confidence. These achievements, though modest, provided hope and momentum. They demonstrated that even in a completely foreign and potentially dangerous environment, humanity's skills, empathy, and intelligence could make a real difference. The medics realized that their mission was not only about immediate medical intervention but also about establishing long-term understanding. Every interaction, every observation, and every action contributed to a foundation of trust. If the humans failed here, first contact could be jeopardized forever. If they succeeded, a new chapter of interstellar cooperation could begin. This understanding gave weight and meaning to every decision the medics made, reinforcing the idea that compassion and professionalism were the most powerful tools they had. The medics had accomplished several critical objectives. They had made initial contact with the aliens, established tentative communication, begun non-invasive medical assessments, and navigated the hazards of the alien vessel. Though many challenges remained, the team had demonstrated that a small group of dedicated individuals could achieve what once seemed impossible. They had proven that humanity could act with courage, empathy, and intelligence when faced with an entirely unknown species. In this phase, the story also reflected a larger truth, that first contact is as much about patience, observation, an understanding as it is about skill or technology. The medics' careful approach, respect for alien life, and willingness to adapt to unprecedented circumstances were as crucial as their medical expertise. Each moment reinforced the delicate balance of trust, care, and responsibility that defined this historic encounter. Hope and anticipation filled the spacecraft. They had entered a new world, confronted the unknown, and begun the delicate work of saving lives and building understanding. The early situation had tested their training, judgment, and courage, yet it also laid the groundwork for what might become humanity's most extraordinary achievement, helping another intelligent species survive and creating a bridge between worlds that had never before known each other. Asterisk as the medics continued their careful work aboard the alien vessel, a growing tension began to ripple through the team. Initially, everything seemed manageable. The aliens were responding to their efforts, and early diagnostics indicated that their condition, while serious, could be stabilized with proper attention. Yet something in the readings started to unsettle the medics. Unusual energy fluctuations were appearing beyond the alien ship in the surrounding space. Tiny, rapid pulses on their scanners suggested the approach of something or someone else. At first, the medics hoped it was a natural phenomenon, perhaps a magnetic storm or debris field, but the patterns were too organized, too deliberate. It became clear that another presence was entering the area, one that the medics could not immediately identify. Asterisk the team's communications officer raised alarms. The instruments were picking up multiple signatures, large and unmistakable, moving in coordinated formations. These were not natural anomalies. They were massive, heavily armored vessels, and their trajectories indicated a direct approach toward the alien ship. The medics exchanged nervous glances. They had come to assist a peaceful species, not to confront potential enemies. Every member of the team understood the danger. The small group of human medics had no weapons, no military backup nearby, and no immediate way to defend themselves against a fleet of unknown ships. Yet retreat was not an option. They were committed to their mission, and leaving the aliens behind was unthinkable. The medics attempted to send a peaceful message to the incoming ships, using all the translation and communication tools at their disposal. They repeated the message several times, emphasizing that they were medical personnel, coming to provide aid and not intending to harm anyone. For a brief moment, it seemed as if the message went unanswered. The new vessels did not slow down, did not alter course, and did not respond in any recognizable way. The tension aboard the medics' spacecraft escalated. Every minute, the unknown fleet drew closer, filling the sensors with their massive presence. As the medics continued their work with the aliens, they noticed signs of alarm among the creatures they had come to help. The aliens' movements became erratic, their glowing patterns flashing more intensely, and their previously calm gestures turned defensive. The medics realized that the aliens themselves could sense the threat before it appeared on any human instrument. This reaction confirmed the medics' fears. The incoming fleet was not friendly. The team knew they had to act quickly, balancing the need to stabilize their patients with the urgent necessity of understanding and responding to the approaching danger. First real moment of crisis came when a larger vessel broke away from the fleet and began a rapid approach toward the alien ship. Its design was starkly different from the smaller, more graceful vessel they had been treating. It was angular, menacing, and heavily fortified. The scanners detected weapons, systems, and energy shields, confirming the medics' worst fears. These were not explorers, diplomats, or traders. These were warships, capable of inflicting devastating damage. Panic threatened to overwhelm the team, but their training and experience kept them focused. They understood that fear could be deadly in this situation, and every decision now had to be calculated, deliberate, and careful. The medics attempted to alert Earth's command centers, sending detailed updates about the fleet's presence and behavior. However, the vast distance meant that communication delays were unavoidable. Messages that should have arrived in seconds took minutes, even hours, to reach human authorities. The medics were effectively on their own, forced to navigate a dangerous and rapidly evolving situation without immediate external support. They relied on each other for guidance, discussion, and reassurance, drawing on years of shared experience and trust. Meanwhile, the alien patients displayed signs of both fear and desperation. Some attempted to retreat deeper into their vessel, while others remained near the medics, seemingly trusting them more than their own species. The medics realized that they were now responsible for more than just medical care. They were mediators, protectors, and negotiators, facing an unprecedented situation. Every action they took could determine the survival of both the aliens and themselves. The team began analyzing the incoming fleet's behavior. Patterns emerged. The vessels were moving in formation, communicating with each other, and making adjustments based on the alien ship's movements. It became clear that the fleet's arrival was not random. They were deliberately tracking the distressed alien vessel and, by extension, the human medics. The question of motive became urgent. Were these warships arriving to eliminate a threat, to seize the aliens, or for some other reason entirely? Without knowing the intent, the medics had to prepare for any possibility. As tension grew, the medics faced a difficult decision. The aliens' condition remained critical, and moving them to safety within the vessel required time, precision, and delicate handling. Yet, the threat from the approaching fleet meant that time was running out. Every delay increased the risk of confrontation, and a misstep could provoke the heavily armed ships. The medics discussed options rapidly, weighing risks and benefits. Every scenario carried potential disaster, yet inaction was equally dangerous. The pressure mounted, but their commitment to the alien survival drove them forward. The first attempt at defensive maneuvering proved challenging. The medics had to reposition their craft and coordinate movement with the alien vessel, ensuring that no accidental collisions occurred. At the same time, they tried to project messages of peace to the fleet. These efforts, while essential, also carried risk. Any perceived aggression or interference could trigger an attack. The medics' hands shook slightly as they worked the controls, but their focus never wavered. Every adjustment had to be precise, every signal carefully crafted. As the fleet continued its approach, the alien vessel experienced further instability. Parts of its structure began to fail under stress, and the creatures on board showed signs of worsening illness. The medics realized that the situation had escalated beyond a simple medical mission. They were now balancing life-saving interventions with the urgent need to prevent a potential catastrophe. The stakes had grown exponentially. It was no longer a question of treating patients. It was a question of survival for all involved. The medics' instruments detected the first active targeting scans from the incoming fleet. Energy beams swept across the area, locking onto the alien ship's coordinates. The medics felt a wave of dread, but also a surge of determination. They knew that their only chance was to demonstrate, clearly and unmistakably, that they posed no threat and that their purpose was purely humanitarian. Using the ship's communication systems, they broadcast visual signals, light patterns, and universal distress messages, hoping to reach the fleet before it was too late. Tension reached a peak when one of the fleet's vessels altered its course and began moving aggressively toward the alien ship. The medics watched in horror as energy discharges flared briefly, narrowly missing the vessel they were trying to protect. Every heartbeat felt like an eternity. The aliens, sensing imminent danger, reacted in ways that the medics struggled to manage. Some moved unpredictably, while others emitted warning signals that reverberated through the vessel. The medics had to calm them while continuing to communicate with the approaching fleet, a task that tested their skill, patience, and courage to the limits. At this critical moment, the medics' leadership emerged as a stabilizing force. They coordinated the team's efforts with precision, assigning roles for communication, medical care, and monitoring the fleet's behavior. Each team member executed their tasks flawlessly, despite the fear and uncertainty. The synergy among the medics allowed them to respond quickly to changes, manage multiple threats simultaneously, and maintain hope in a seemingly impossible situation. In this rising conflict, the medics also began to understand more about the alien patient's behavior under stress. The creatures displayed remarkable intelligence and adaptability, responding to gestures, light signals, and patterns of care. They began to cooperate, allowing the medics to stabilize critical conditions and prepare for potential evacuation or protective measures. This cooperation was both a relief and a reminder. The lives of the aliens depended not just on medical skill, but also on the ability to navigate complex interactions under extreme pressure. The medics realized that the confrontation with the fleet could escalate at any moment. Their priority became clear: stabilize the aliens, maintain peaceful communication, and buy enough time for a diplomatic resolution. Every decision carried immense weight. One wrong move could trigger violence, endangering the medics, the aliens, and possibly the vessel itself. The responsibility was staggering, yet the team's training, empathy, and teamwork kept them focused. They relied on careful observation, patience, and subtle cues to guide their actions. Despite the overwhelming stress, moments of hope emerged. Small signs indicated that the fleet might be responding to their peaceful signals. Changes in trajectory, pauses in movement, and subtle adjustments suggested that negotiation or at least understanding was possible. The medics interpreted these signals cautiously, using them to adjust their strategy. Every step forward was slow and deliberate, but it represented progress in a situation that could have quickly become catastrophic. The medics faced not only external threats but also internal doubts and fears. They questioned whether they were capable of succeeding, whether they could manage both medical care and the looming danger, and whether humanity was prepared for encounters of this magnitude. Yet, in each challenge, the medics found resilience. The bonds between team members strengthened, their focus sharpened, and their commitment to the mission deepened. They understood that their courage, skill, and empathy were the only tools they had to navigate this rising conflict. The medics had achieved several critical objectives. They maintained care for the alien patients under extreme pressure, navigated the immediate dangers posed by the approaching fleet, and established tentative signals of communication and understanding. Though the threat was far from resolved, the medics demonstrated that calm, intelligent, and compassionate action could hold the line even in the face of overwhelming danger. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it. The medics' efforts showed that even in a situation filled with unknowns, with life hanging in the balance, and with forces beyond their control approaching rapidly, determination, empathy, and teamwork could create a chance for survival. The stage was set for what would come next, a confrontation that would test the limits of human ingenuity, diplomacy, and courage in ways no one had ever imagined. The tension that had been quietly building around the alien vessel suddenly erupted into a full-scale crisis. What the medics had feared for weeks, the arrival of heavily armed ships, was no longer a distant threat. The so-called Deathworlders had fully revealed themselves, their warships moving with precision and intent. From the medic scanners, it became apparent that the fleet was much larger than originally estimated. Ships of immense size, bristling with weaponry, surrounded the alien vessel in a formation designed to intimidate and control. The medics understood immediately that diplomacy and compassion alone would be tested in the most extreme way. Inside the alien ship, chaos had begun to unfold. The aliens, whose fragile trust in the human medics had been painstakingly earned, reacted to the looming threat with fear and confusion. Their glowing patterns, previously soothing and predictable, now flashed erratically. The creatures moved in unpredictable ways, retreating from one area to another, their attempts to protect themselves sometimes clashing with the medics' efforts to stabilize them. Every gesture, every small sound from the medics had to be calculated with extreme care. Yet the situation was spiraling beyond control. It became clear that the medics' calm and patient approach would soon be tested to its absolute limits. The medics tried to maintain communication with the fleet, using every method available: visual signals, light patterns, audio frequencies, and even attempts to replicate biological signals that seemed to indicate non-threatening behavior. For a brief moment, there was hope. Some ships paused, their trajectories slowing slightly, perhaps indicating a willingness to observe rather than attack. But this moment was fleeting. One of the larger vessels suddenly emitted a scanning pulse directly toward the alien ship. The medics' instruments registered it as a targeting sequence, and panic gripped the team. This was no longer just a test. It was a direct threat to the lives of the aliens and the humans alike. The medics had to make a critical decision. They could either continue attempting to calm the aliens and risk provoking the fleet, or attempt evasive maneuvers that could further destabilize their patience. The choice was agonizing. Every second counted. The aliens' condition was fragile, and moving them carelessly could be fatal. Yet the presence of the Deathworlder ships meant that time was running out. After rapid consultation, the medics agreed on a daring approach. They would stabilize the most critically ill aliens first, while simultaneously broadcasting an urgent plea for peace to the incoming fleet. The first challenge was sheer logistics. The alien vessel's interior was complex and fragile, with corridors and chambers that could collapse under stress. The medics divided their team, assigning roles for medical care, monitoring of environmental hazards, and communication with the fleet. Each medic worked tirelessly, moving with precision to avoid accidental harm to the aliens while keeping an eye on the approaching threat. Every small success felt like a victory, but the tension never subsided. The medics could see the shadow of destruction looming just beyond the vessel's hull, and the pressure was nearly unbearable as the medics worked. The first signs of direct confrontation began to appear. One of the Deathworlder ships fired a warning shot on energy pulse that struck the space near the alien vessel but caused no immediate physical damage. The blast created waves of force that reverberated through the fragile ship, shaking walls and sending debris into the corridors. The aliens reacted with panic, some retreating deeper into the ship while others froze in fear. The medics rushed to stabilize both the environment and their patients, moving quickly to secure structural weak points and soothe frightened creatures. The medics realized that they were now on the brink of catastrophe. The Deathworlders' aggression was not arbitrary. It was tactical. The fleet's formation, their scanning pulses, and the warning shots all suggested that any misstep could trigger a full-scale attack. The medics had no weapons, no backup, and no immediate way to repel the threat. Their only options were to rely on communication, empathy, and ingenuity. Every decision had to be perfect, yet the sheer complexity of the situation made perfection almost impossible. In the midst of this chaos, the medics began noticing subtle patterns in the aliens' behavior. Despite their panic, the creatures were intelligent and adaptive. Certain calming gestures, combined with specific light signals, seemed to soothe the aliens temporarily. The medics realized that they could leverage this behavior to gain precious minutes to continue their work. Small acts of reassurance, careful handling, and consistent attention to the aliens' needs became not just acts of care but strategies for survival. The breaking point approached when one of the larger Deathworlder ships accelerated aggressively toward the alien vessel, energy weapons primed. The medics' instruments registered a direct threat to the core area where the most critically ill aliens were located. For the first time, the medics fully confronted the possibility of total disaster. If the energy discharge hit the vessel, countless lives would be lost instantly. Panic surged briefly among the team, but it was quickly replaced by determination. Retreat was impossible. The medics had to act, and they had to act immediately in a bold maneuver. The medics used the alien vessel's natural energy fields to create a protective buffer. By carefully manipulating the ship's internal energy flows, they generated a temporary shield-like effect that absorbed some of the incoming energy pulses. It was an improvisation born of necessity, a combination of medical knowledge, engineering skill, and quick thinking. The shield held just long enough to prevent catastrophic damage, buying the medics precious moments to continue their care. The aliens, sensing the relative safety, began to calm slightly, allowing the medics to stabilize the most critical cases. Even as this partial success occurred, the medics faced another challenge. The fleet was not monolithic. Different ships behaved differently. Some seemed willing to observe, while others advanced aggressively, firing warning pulses and scanning sequences. The medics had to manage multiple threats simultaneously while keeping their attention on the alien survival. Coordination, quick judgment, and the ability to improvise under extreme stress became essential. Every decision carried life or death consequences. The psychological strain on the medics reached its peak. Hours of constant vigilance, fear, and high-stakes decision-making tested their endurance. Yet, in these moments of extreme pressure, the team's cohesion became their greatest strength. They communicated constantly, adjusted strategies in real time, and relied on their trust in one another to maintain focus. Individual fears were subordinated to the collective mission: protect the aliens and survive the confrontation with the Deathworlders. As the breaking point intensified, the medics realized that words alone would not suffice to communicate peace to the fleet. They had to demonstrate through actions that they were non-threatening and dedicated solely to humanitarian purposes. Using a combination of controlled movement, energy signaling, and strategic positioning of the alien vessel, they projected a pattern that suggested collaboration rather than aggression. The results were tentative but promising. Some ships slowed their advance, perhaps interpreting the signals as non-hostile. Simultaneously, the medics continued their delicate medical work. Critical interventions had to be performed under extreme pressure, often with the alien creatures trembling or moving unpredictably. Each procedure required calm precision and rapid decision-making. The medics' hands moved quickly but carefully, scanning vital signs, administering treatments, and ensuring the aliens remained stable. It was an extraordinary balance of science, empathy, and courage, conducted under circumstances that no human had ever experienced before. The true breaking point came when a larger Deathworlder ship fired a full-strength energy beam, hitting the outer hull of the alien vessel. The impact sent shockwaves through the corridors, knocking equipment over and causing temporary structural failures. The medics were thrown off balance, yet they clung to their training and focused on the immediate priority: securing the aliens and maintaining life-saving measures. The vessel's interior, though damaged, remained intact just enough for them to continue their work. Every medic understood that the margin for error had become almost non-existent. It was in these moments that ingenuity and courage became the medics' greatest allies. They used portable stabilizers, emergency energy dispersers, and improvised shielding techniques to maintain critical systems and protect the aliens. Every device, every adjustment, and every careful gesture counted. It was a race against time, pressure, and a vastly superior force. The medics' ability to adapt in real time turned what could have been immediate disaster into a tenuous, survivable situation. The breaking point also highlighted the importance of communication between species. The aliens, despite their panic, followed the medics' lead. Their cooperation allowed the medics to continue stabilizing their condition and to attempt further negotiations with the Deathworlder fleet. Moments of mutual understanding, even small ones, became lifelines in the midst of chaos. Trust, carefully cultivated through patience and empathy, proved to be a weapon as powerful as any technology. The alien vessel was damaged. The Deathworlder fleet loomed threateningly, and the human team was operating at the edge of exhaustion. Yet, they had survived the immediate onslaught, maintained care for their patients, and demonstrated that even in the face of overwhelming force, strategic thinking, empathy, and courage could create opportunities for survival. The breaking point had tested every skill, every decision, and every ounce of determination the medics possessed. It was a moment that would define the rest of their mission and perhaps the future of human interaction with extraterrestrial life. Courage is most profound not in the absence of danger, but in the willingness to act despite it. The medics' actions under extreme stress, their ability to improvise, and their commitment to saving lives highlighted humanity's potential for compassion and ingenuity in the most impossible situations. The stage was now set for resolution, but the memory of this breaking point would remain etched in the minds of everyone involved, a testament to the delicate balance between survival, empathy, and the unknown. The chaos that had gripped the alien vessel and the human medics for so long began to shift, slowly but unmistakably, toward resolution. After hours of relentless tension, the medics realized that surviving the immediate threat was only part of their challenge. To truly succeed, they had to find a way to communicate understanding, foster trust, and demonstrate that their mission was solely humanitarian. Every move, every gesture, and every signal from this point onward could determine the outcome not just for the medics or the aliens, but potentially for the entire human species and their first encounter with intelligent extraterrestrial life. The medics' first priority was the aliens themselves. Though the creatures had calmed slightly since the peak of the breaking point, their biological systems remained fragile. Many were injured or suffering from conditions that could worsen if not treated immediately. The medics moved with painstaking care, stabilizing vital systems, administering treatments, and monitoring responses to ensure that their interventions were effective. Each procedure required a delicate balance of speed and precision to slow, and the aliens' conditions could deteriorate too aggressive, and they risked causing harm or triggering panic. Every medic was hyper-aware of the stakes, and the atmosphere aboard the vessel was tense yet resolute at the same time. The medics had to manage communication with the Deathworlder fleet. They realized that direct language might never be enough. These were not creatures that understood words as humans did. Instead, they relied on patterns, gestures, and demonstrations of intent. The medics devised a series of synchronized signals, combining the alien vessel's energy pulses with carefully controlled movements and light displays. The goal was to communicate clarity, purpose, and peaceful intent in a language that transcended spoken words. The process was painstaking, and every observation required immediate analysis to determine if the signals were understood correctly. Gradually, a response began to emerge. The Deathworlder ships adjusted their formation, slowing their advance and opening spaces between vessels. Some ships emitted energy patterns that could be interpreted as observation rather than aggression. The medics interpreted this as a sign of tentative understanding. The fleet might recognize that the humans' intentions were not. This small victory was enough to give the team renewed focus. They redoubled their efforts to stabilize the aliens and maintain clear communication, knowing that patience would be key to turning this precarious situation into a successful resolution. Inside the alien vessel, the medics continued to work in close coordination with the creatures themselves. Despite previous fear, the aliens now seemed to recognize the humans' commitment to their survival. Some remained close to the medics, offering physical cooperation that allowed treatments to proceed more efficiently. Others began to exhibit behaviors that suggested cautious trust, rhythmic movements that corresponded to the medics' signals, pulses of light that seemed to communicate acknowledgement, and gestures that indicated understanding of basic instructions. The medics noted that this emerging pattern of cooperation was crucial. It not only allowed the immediate medical interventions to succeed but also sent an unmistakable signal to the Deathworlder fleet that the humans' efforts were non-threatening. As the medics stabilized the critical cases, they turned attention to the environmental systems of the alien vessel. Structural weaknesses caused by the fleet's aggressive maneuvers and prior instability had created hazards. Corridors were partially collapsed. Energy conduits were fluctuating dangerously. In some areas risked total failure if left unattended. The medics, using portable stabilization devices and careful coordination with the aliens, began to repair and reinforce these systems. These actions served a dual purpose. They safeguarded the lives of the creatures under their care and demonstrated to the Deathworlders that the humans were skilled, capable, and committed to preserving life rather than causing destruction. The medics also worked to establish a form of long-distance communication with Earth, despite the lag caused by interstellar distances. Sending detailed reports of the situation was critical. By providing continuous updates, they allowed command centers and diplomatic teams on Earth to understand the stakes and prepare for potential interventions or negotiations. While the medics remained on the front lines, this communication created a broader network of support that added a measure of reassurance and legitimacy to their mission. A particularly tense moment arrived when one of the death ships began emitting high-intensity energy pulses that swept toward the alien vessel. The medics' instruments registered the readings as both a warning and a test. The team had to act quickly to protect the aliens while simultaneously demonstrating not using the vessel's energy systems and carefully coordinated light displays. The medics managed to deflect the pulses, creating a protective shield that absorbed much of the impact. The aliens, sensing the relative safety, became calmer, while the Deathworlder fleet paused its aggressive behavior, perhaps interpreting the humans' actions as evidence of skill and peaceful intent. Throughout this process, the medics relied on a combination of analytical thinking, intuition, and empathy. They observed not only physical patterns but behavioral cues. The subtle ways the aliens reacted to light, touch, and movement became invaluable in predicting responses and guiding interventions. Each success, no matter how small, reinforced trust and built momentum toward a more stable situation. The medics had moved from reacting to crisis to actively shaping the environment and interactions around them, creating a delicate balance that favored resolution over conflict. The next breakthrough came when the medics initiated a direct interactive protocol with the Deathworlder fleet. Instead of relying solely on passive signaling, they synchronized movements with the alien vessel, demonstrating the humans' coordination and non-hostile intent. This display, combined with clear protection of the alien life forms, communicated an unmistakable message. The humans were not aggressive. Gradually, the Deathworlder ships adjusted formation, creating gaps and reducing energy emissions. The medics recognized that this was the moment when understanding and negotiation were beginning to take hold simultaneously. The medics intensified medical care, completing treatments that had been started under duress. The aliens' vital signs stabilized, and previously critical conditions improved. This tangible evidence of recovery served multiple purposes. It reassured the creatures that the humans were allies and not a threat. It gave the medics confidence in their methods, and it sent a signal to the Deathworlders that the humans' interventions were life-saving rather than harmful. In a sense, the health of the aliens became both a measure of success and a tool for diplomatic resolution. The medics had also begun mapping the aliens' behaviors in response to external threats. They discovered that the creatures' biological systems were intertwined with environmental stimuli. Changes in light, energy flows, and vibration could influence stress levels, movement, and recovery. By carefully managing these conditions, the medics were able to optimize treatment while maintaining calm among the alien population. This careful manipulation of environment and behavior became a critical factor in both medical and diplomatic success. The medics' efforts were not without risk. Minor miscalculations could still provoke panic or provoke aggression from the fleet. Equipment malfunctions, unexpected alien reactions, or unforeseen energy fluctuations could undo hours of careful work. Yet the team remained vigilant, constantly monitoring, adjusting, and responding to ensure that the delicate balance was maintained. Their training, intuition, and commitment to both human and alien life allowed them to operate with remarkable precision under extreme pressure. As the situation stabilized, the medics worked to create a more permanent protective structure within the alien vessel. Using both human technology and the aliens' own systems, they reinforced critical areas, ensured energy flows were stable, and provided spaces where the creatures could remain safe in the event of further disturbances. This preparation served as both a practical safeguard and a demonstration of responsibility to the Deathworlder fleet. It showed that the humans were capable of managing complex, high-stakes environments with skill and care. After hours of delicate maneuvering, communication, and medical intervention, the first signs of true resolution emerged. The Deathworlder fleet began to withdraw slightly, opening space between their ships and reducing aggressive maneuvers. While still cautious, they appeared to recognize the humans' peaceful purpose. The medics interpreted this as a turning point. The immediate threat of destruction had passed, and a fragile but real opportunity for mutual understanding had been established inside the alien vessel. The atmosphere shifted as well. The creatures moved more freely, their energy pulses stabilizing into patterns that suggested trust and recognition. The medics continued treatment, monitoring for delayed reactions, but the immediate danger had subsided. Relief mixed with exhaustion among the human team, but the mission was far from complete. Maintaining stability, continuing care, and ensuring long-term understanding remained priorities throughout the resolution phase. The medics reflected on the delicate interplay between empathy, skill, and courage. Their ability to remain calm under pressure, to observe and interpret alien behavior, and to improvise in the face of unprecedented challenges had transformed a potential catastrophe into a successful intervention. The story of resolution highlighted the essential truth that survival and peace often depend not on force, but on understanding, communication, and determination to act in the interest of others. The medics had achieved multiple objectives. They stabilized the alien population, established a framework for ongoing communication with the Deathworlder fleet, and demonstrated humanity's capacity for empathy and skill in the most extreme circumstances. While tensions remained, the immediate threat had been managed, and a path toward cooperation and continued peaceful engagement had been opened. The resolution of this crisis was not simply a matter of technical skill. It was a triumph of patience, observation, and moral courage. The medics had faced overwhelming odds, yet their commitment to life, understanding, and ethical action created the conditions for survival and hope. In this moment, the story became more than a medical mission or a first contact scenario. It became a testament to the power of compassion, intelligence, and resolve in the face of the unknown. As the medics prepared for the next phase, long-term stability, and reflecting on the encounter, they recognized that this resolution marked the beginning of a new era. Not only had they saved lives, but they had demonstrated that humanity could act responsibly, thoughtfully, and bravely when confronted with life forms far beyond Earth. The lessons learned in this critical phase would guide future encounters, diplomacy, and the ongoing mission of exploring and understanding the universe. After the immediate danger had passed, and the Deathworlder fleet withdrew, a profound stillness settled over the alien vessel. The medics, exhausted yet alert, took stock of the situation. The once chaotic corridors were quieter now, the alien patients calmer, and the threat of sudden violence reduced. It was a moment for relief, but also for reflection. The events of the past hours, days, and weeks had been so intense that the human team could hardly process everything. The mission had been more than a medical intervention. It had been an unprecedented test of courage, empathy, and intelligence under extreme conditions. The medics began by reviewing the health of the alien population. Many of the creatures had stabilized, their vital signs returning to normal ranges, and previously critical cases were showing remarkable recovery. The medics noted that their careful balance of patience, precise treatment, and environmental control had paid off. They had not only saved lives but also demonstrated that human intervention, when guided by empathy and understanding, could coexist with alien biology rather than overwhelm it. The aliens, for their part, seemed to recognize this fact, exhibiting behaviors that suggested trust and cautious gratitude as they conducted these post-crisis assessments. The medics also began evaluating the alien vessel itself. Damage from previous instability, energy fluctuations, and the fleet's warning shots had left the ship fragile in places. Working alongside the alien population, the medics helped reinforce structural systems and stabilize energy flows. This work required extraordinary care, as the vessel's internal systems were unlike any human technology. Yet, the medics' adaptability and willingness to learn from the aliens allowed them to make critical improvements, ensuring the ship could sustain itself without immediate human intervention. The medics' reflections extended beyond immediate survival. They considered the broader implications of the encounter. Humanity had entered its first real interaction with intelligent extraterrestrial life, a moment that would define the species' place in the universe. The mission had tested not just medical skill but the very principles of diplomacy, ethics, and responsibility. The medics realized that their success was as much about character, patience, and courage as it was about scientific expertise. They had demonstrated that life could be preserved across species boundaries and that understanding could overcome fear. Even in the presence of overwhelming power, the Deathworlder fleet remained at a cautious distance, still monitoring the alien vessel but refraining from aggressive action. The medics interpreted this as both a challenge and an opportunity. While the immediate threat had diminished, the fleet's presence reminded them that vigilance was still necessary. They used this period to continue communication attempts, employing a combination of light patterns, energy signals, and behavioral cues to convey peaceful intentions and ongoing cooperation. Each interaction with the fleet reinforced the understanding that humanity had established a foundation of trust, even with beings whose culture and intentions were initially opaque. As the medics worked, they began documenting every aspect of the encounter. Medical procedures, behavioral observations, environmental adjustments, and communication strategies were all recorded in meticulous detail. These records would serve multiple purposes, providing data for future first contact missions, offering insight into alien biology and behavior, and preserving a detailed account of humanity's first successful intervention in an interstellar crisis. For the medics, this documentation was not just professional responsibility, it was a way of honoring the lives they had saved and the extraordinary circumstances they had navigated. Amid these practical concerns, the medics also took moments to reflect personally. Each member of the team considered the emotional and psychological impact of what they had experienced. They had faced near-certain danger, witnessed the fragility and resilience of alien life, and confronted forces far beyond human understanding. The intensity of the situation had forged bonds between the team members that were deeper than any previous experience. They had relied on each other not just for technical support but for emotional strength, trust, and reassurance. These bonds would last long after the mission concluded. The aliens themselves played a central role in this period of reflection. Observing their behavior, the medics noted subtle changes. The creatures were less reactive to environmental disturbances, more cooperative with medical procedures, and seemed to display a form of recognition or acknowledgement of the human's role in their survival. The medics interpreted these signs as evidence that trust, once established, could endure even in the aftermath of extreme trauma. This understanding was crucial for the future. Any further interactions with these other species would depend on humanity's ability to act ethically, patiently, and responsibly. The medics also considered the broader implications for Earth. They knew that their actions would soon be scrutinized by scientists, policymakers, and the public worldwide. The mission's success demonstrated that humanity could act as a responsible interstellar species, capable of compassionate intervention and careful negotiation even in the face of potentially hostile forces. It challenged assumptions about humanity's readiness for contact with intelligent life and offered a hopeful vision that fear and aggression need not define first contact, and that empathy and skill could prevail even in extreme circumstances. The medics initiated a series of debriefings with one another. They discussed what had gone well, what challenges had arisen, and what they might do differently in the future. These conversations were candid and thorough. The team acknowledged moments of fear, mistakes that had been narrowly avoided, and decisions that had made the difference between survival and catastrophe. Through these reflections, the medics reinforced lessons that would be invaluable for future missions. The importance of observation, careful communication, improvisation, and unwavering attention to the ethical implications of their actions. The medics also engaged in reflection on a personal level. Some struggled with the psychological weight of the crisis, recalling moments when the threat of death had felt immediate and unavoidable. Others marveled at the beauty and intelligence of the alien life forms, recognizing that they had witnessed something truly extraordinary. These reflections were not merely emotional. They shaped the medics' understanding of their purpose, their capacity for courage, and the responsibilities that came with being among the first humans to interact directly with intelligent extraterrestrial beings over time. The medics observed signs that the aliens were beginning to resume a semblance of normal activity. Energy patterns became more predictable, movements slowed from frantic gestures to deliberate steps, and the creatures' interaction with their environment suggested growing confidence in their safety. The medics saw this as the ultimate validation of their efforts. They had not only preserved life under extreme circumstances, but also fostered an environment where the aliens could begin to heal and recover on their own. The medics also began considering the long-term consequences of the encounter. The aliens' experience of humanity's actions would influence their perception of Earth, their willingness to communicate in the future, and their relationship with other interstellar species. Likewise, humanity's understanding of alien biology, behavior, and response to crisis would inform future missions and diplomatic strategies. The medics understood that every decision made during the encounter would have echoes far into the future, shaping the course of interstellar relations and potentially preventing conflict. Through the demonstration of ethical and competent behavior, the medics' reflections were not limited to professional and practical concerns. They also considered philosophical questions. What does it mean to be responsible for life beyond one's own species? How should humanity navigate encounters with civilizations whose values, biology, and technology are entirely different? What lessons could be learned about cooperation, empathy, and the use of knowledge under conditions of extreme uncertainty? These questions, while abstract, were deeply relevant. The medics had been on the front lines of an unprecedented situation, and their experiences offered insight not just for future missions but for humanity's self-understanding. As a species capable of moral and ethical reasoning on a cosmic scale, communication with Earth remained a priority. The medics transmitted detailed updates, including medical records, behavioral observations, and the sequence of events that had led to the fleet's withdrawal. Earth's scientific community and governmental authorities monitored every signal, interpreting the medics' success as a pivotal moment in human history. The mission provided evidence that humanity could act as a stabilizing, ethical force in interstellar encounters, capable of preventing conflict through careful observation, empathy, and decisive non-aggressive action. As the days passed, the medics began organizing the alien vessel for eventual departure. While immediate evacuation was not necessary, preparations ensured that the ship could navigate safely once the fleet fully withdrew. Systems were stabilized, critical pathways reinforced, and the aliens were supported in resuming routine activities. The medics' presence, though temporary, had created lasting structures of safety and recovery, demonstrating that their intervention extended beyond immediate survival to longer-term resilience. In these final moments aboard the alien vessel, the medics reflected on the broader meaning of their mission. They had witnessed firsthand the fragility and resilience of life, the dangers posed by misunderstanding and aggression, and the power of empathy, skill, and moral courage to shape outcomes in even the most extreme circumstances. Their experience had shown that survival was not simply a matter of technology or force, but of understanding, patience, and the willingness to act responsibly under pressure. The immediate threat had passed, that alien patients were recovering, and the Deathworlder fleet had retreated. The human team had demonstrated that compassion and intelligence could coexist with courage and ingenuity, creating a pathway for future interstellar cooperation. The story of this mission would become a landmark in human history, a testament to the potential for ethical action, cross-species understanding, and the enduring power of empathy in the face of overwhelming challenges. The medics' final reflections centered on the lessons learned. They understood that first contact was not just a technical or medical challenge but a profound ethical responsibility. The way humanity responded to life beyond Earth would define not only immediate outcomes but the species' broader place in the universe. Their experience underscored that even in the face of danger, patience, careful observation, and respect for life were essential tools. Courage was necessary, but it had to be coupled with wisdom, empathy, and the willingness to adapt to entirely unknown circumstances. As the alien vessel prepared to resume autonomous operations and the human medics prepared to return home, a sense of completion and purpose settled over the team. They had survived the crisis, saved lives, and established a precedent for ethical, compassionate interaction with intelligent extraterrestrial species. The aftermath of this mission would continue to ripple through humanity, influencing policy, science, philosophy, and the understanding of what it meant to act responsibly in a universe full of unknowns. The story of this mission, its dangers, and its resolution, would be remembered not simply as a tale of survival but as a demonstration of humanity at its best, courageous, compassionate, and wise. The medics had faced the impossible and, through skill, empathy, and determination, transformed potential disaster into a foundation of trust, hope, and understanding. Their reflections, in this final phase, would guide the next generation of explorers, medics, and diplomats as humanity continued its journey into the vast and mysterious cosmos.